Hey guys, welcome back. We're looking at section 6, chapter 12, um, talking about President Madison's dilemma and a continuation of the three previous presidents. How do we need to protect our sailors and then also settlers along the western border or the frontier? Some background. President Madison continued to use diplomacy in an attempt to settle disputes with France and Great Britain. So he was following the precedent set by the previous three presidents, trying to use diplomacy and negotiation um, to keep things on an even keel with those two countries. He wanted the attacks to end on the ships, and he basically said, whichever one can agree to this first, we'll stop trading with the other countries. So if France were to have to agree to it first, then the United States would stop trading with Great Britain, or vice versa. Uh, Napoleon from France agreed to Madison's offer, but then, kind of in a deceptive plot, he continued to seize American ships and merchandise. We've talked about it this chapter, connecting back to chapter 11, understanding that history is not linear, that you can't look at or study history in a vacuum, that there's also always other events and things impacting what's going on with the location or place or time period that we're studying. And at this time period that we're looking at the United States, there was a lot of turmoil and conflict in Europe, and Napoleon was a big reason for that. He was taking over territory, looking to expand his empire. Madison wanted to believe the French, and he cut off trade with Great Britain. So there's a negative effect to that too, because Great Britain was buying a lot of goods from the United States. The British response then, and we have a growing war fever among the American public. The British seizure of American ships continues. Madison's response to this is he wants to force Britain to recognize American rights, and he's basically going to abandon Washington's policy of isolationism and go to war. Regional views differ on a potential war with Great Britain. So in New England, we have the New Englanders and the Federalists. They're opposed to the war. They knew a blockade would be enacted. Britain would come in with their ships and blockade American ports and not let any goods in or out. And we need to remember that New England was a major hub of commerce for the United States. People living in the South and West, though, supported a potential war. They really resented Great Britain's policy of impressment. They felt that it was a real knock in respecting us as a country. And they felt that Great Britain was stirring up trouble with Native American groups living along the frontier. And some of their suspicions would turn out to be true. Frontier conflicts then. Settlers were pushing into the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys. They were forcing Native Americans off their land. We have a Tecumseh. He's a native chief, and he's very gregarious and outspoken. He's tired of just kind of consenting to the U.S. government signing treaties and then going back on the treaties. And his brother, who is referred to as the prophet, due to the fact that he seemed to have these fortune-telling types of dreams, they were going all along the western frontier and uniting Native Americans into essentially what was a single Native American nation to fight back against the U.S. government. So here we have so we have a visualization with this. This will be Tecumseh, the prophet, and then the leader of the American response, William Henry Harrison, who was the governor of Indiana. He's going to fight against the Shawnee at Tippecanoe Creek, and he's going to come out on the winning side of that. But it was a big battle. The Americans are going to win. The American government's going to win. So they defeat the Native Americans, but even more importantly, from the defeat, the government discovers that the British are arming the Native Americans with guns. So this is going to be, again, another one of those kind of slap in the face to the respect of what the United States is trying to do, whether or not you agree with their Native American, the Indian removal policy, or how they were dealing with them. Britain was coming in and trying to undercut United States authority in the region. So we have the U.S. response. The Americans are outraged at the discovery of the British weapons that the Native Americans were using. This group, known as the War Hawks, is going to emerge. Henry Clay from Kentucky and William C. Calhoun from South Carolina. Now, this is just kind of the emerging event for these two gentlemen, and they're going to have further impact on U.S. history, but they are really pushing support for war with Great Britain. And then kind of a secondary reason for them was they wanted to push Great Britain entirely out of Canada and allow for the United States to expand its northern borders as well. So the enthusiasm for the war is going to grow nationally. The continued losses at sea, our national pride is growing, feeling like we can stand up to Great Britain and we don't have to be kicked around by them anymore. And then the desire for a safe frontier for further Western settlement. And in the next section, we'll take a look at what President Madison ultimately decides to do and the direction that those events take and the impact they have on U.S. history. We'll talk to you next time.